8. That's the number of movies I will be reviewing in this video. So sit back, relax, chill out, whatever. It's only going to be about like 20 minutes long or so. If you're new, sub, like, dislike, whatever. Hit the bell, do this, do that, do the other thing. Meanwhile, I just told you all to just like relax. But okay, do whatever you want. Just enjoy. Bad Impulse. Doesn't that look like Paul Sorvino's eyes? Oh, because it is. In the aftermath of a traumatic event, a suburban husband and father buys a cutting-edge home security system, only to find that it slowly destroys that which he most wants to protect. Yeah, and the family, in other words. Bad Impulse is a psychological thriller about family secrets exposed as a result of modern technology. In the aftermath of his attack by loan sharks, Henry Sharp, played by Grant Bowler, a suburban husband, father, and successful stockbroker, becomes a paranoid recluse. He comes to install a cutting-edge home security system from the mysterious Lou Branch. Yep, Paul Sorvino. The cutting-edge system is that each occupant of the household is fitted with an anklet that draws a blood sample and codes their DNA into the system. Henry Sharp soon realizes his paranoia has placed his family at the mercy of an AI that is slowly destroying that which he most wants to protect. In addition to the marquee names of this great Paul Sorvino and Dan Lauria that we came to see, I mean, do we really need to rattle off their resumes? I don't think so. But check it out. The film also stars Grant Bowler and Sonia Walger. Bad Impulse is the fourth feature film by Michelle Danner, a renowned acting coach who's worked with the likes of Gerald Butler, James Franco, Michael Pena, and Michelle Rodriguez. She is currently in pre-production on a fifth feature, The Runner, starring Elizabeth Rom. The screenwriter of Bad Impulse and The Runner, Jason Chase Tyrrell, made his debut with 2017's Ghost House, starring Scout Taylor Compton and Mark Boone Jr. I would say to check this one out. It only got released yesterday, so if you can find it, it was released by Gravitas Venturas. If you can find it, I would definitely say go watch it. This is one you don't want to miss. Body Cam. Oh wait, no, that's Body Count. This one, I'm going to read to you what they say it's about, and then I'll tell you what it's about and what I thought of it. When a routine traffic stop results in the unexplained, grisly death of her colleague, a cop, Mary J. Blige, realizes footage of the incidents will play for her eyes only. As the attacks mount, she races to understand the supernatural force behind them. Okay, so this movie is a mystery thriller with a bit of gore. It is set as a horror too, but I would not class it in that category. The movie's about the Louisiana Police Department. As most police officers today, the use and recorded evidence of their body cam can be vital in cases. Renee Lamito Smith, played by Mary J. Blige, has just come back to the force after an incident that got her suspended, where she lost her temper with a civilian. At the time, she was going through the stress and trauma of losing her son. He had tragically died in a drowning accident. Doesn't sound too much like a horror, does it? The body cam that she was wearing was the defining factor in the incident. Ooh. As she is returning to work, a strange incident occurred. A routine traffic stop becomes something very different and mysterious. Renee is given rookie cop Danny Hollidge as her partner, played by Nat Wolff. And as they are driving around, they come across the car of the colleagues that had been involved in the traffic stop. The car is in a dark area with dim and broken lighting, and as they approach the vehicle with caution, they soon realize that their colleagues are nowhere to be seen. When they get to the car, They see that there is damage and blood on the vehicle. As Danny scouts the area, Renee gets into the car to see if she can see what happened on the dash cam. The computer within the car is glitchy, and with a few taps, Renee sees what was on the cam. You see the stop, you see the person get out of the van, and then the unexplainable happens. I'm going to leave it there as I don't want to give you any spoilers. The movie was okay. It did have some jumpy moments, but I do think that in this case, if they were trying to go down the horror route, it could have been much more intense. Twists and turns were good in the movie, but you get these with all mystery thrillers. Some of the acting in this, though, just not there. But Mary J. Blige, she did really good, and I would like to see her in a movie that could extract all of that acting talent that we get a small glimpse of here. Again, the storyline was okay, but not the best adaptation that it had the potential to be, as we only got a small piece of backstory for Renee. When and if you watch this, you'll see exactly what I mean. Hunter x Hunter. Joseph and his family live in the remote wilderness as fur trappers, but their tranquility is threatened when they think they are being hunted by the return of a rogue wolf, and Joseph leaves them behind to track it. Okay, so the initial assumption is that this is a story of a lone wolf stalking a family. Early on, it shifts into the story of Joseph Mersault, a throwback trapper teaching his 13-year-old daughter how to survive off the land. Yet what writer-director Sean Linden ultimately delivers is the story of Joseph's wife, Anne, who combats not only the wolf, but something even worse. Joseph, who's played by Devon Sawa, is one grumpy dude. He's no fan of society or people, and the only pleasures he seems to find in life are living in an isolated cabin and teaching his daughter Renee how to do the same. They are joined in this quiet and very hard life by wife and mother Anne, played by Camille Sullivan. Anne dutifully carries out her chores, but dreams of a more normal life for herself and her daughter. The family barters animal skins for food and supplies and live mostly off the grid, and we later learn there are complications to even something as simple as their cabin. The forests of Manitoba provide what the family needs, but just barely. Winter is approaching, and now a wolf is stealing from their traps, leaving them short of food. This wolf has previously stalked the family, and Joseph aims to hunt him down. The camera work in the forest is terrific, giving us the visual beauty as well as the constant danger. And in this story, danger and traps take on many forms, including the secret folks keep from each other. The wolf only makes a couple of appearances, yet the threat is always present. There is a terrific sequence that cuts between Joseph, Anne, and Renee, as each are in different areas of the forest at the same time. Each of the situations is tension-filled, and our minds are bouncing around as much as the characters. Other characters enter the story, including a couple of rangers who are unprepared for what they are about to face. And another character, who's played by Nick Stahl, shifts the entire dynamic of the film. Director Linden gives us a survival thriller, one that probably best compares to Leave No Trace. This one is also a psychological study of just what a person is capable of when pushed to the limit. Anne's story is about her ability to navigate this world while raising a daughter. The final sequence leads to extreme violence and acts as her emotional release every bit as much as rage and revenge. I would say definitely check this one out. It will be worth your time. Killerhertz. When her boyfriend creates an app that can summon up dead spirits, Casey must deal with the devastating consequences that follow. Alright. I usually don't knock the acting in indie films, but how many of these people should be actors? None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Other than the plot was horrible. I knew it would be terrible when they didn't tell us what happens in the first scene and then goes months forward in time. Next time, man, set the film up better. The screenplay and dialogue is beyond terrible as well. It seems the writer didn't really know where the story was going or where to take it. It was just a mess right after the first scene. Overall, awful. Is it unintentionally hilarious? I mean, check out some of these things, okay? It's dubbed in English, but dialogue is already in English. Every bit of the dialogue is utterly ridiculous, both in writing and delivery. Plot changes direction incomprehensibly at least 2 times. Very poor grasp of electricity, police proceedings, human relationships, trauma, and subletting apartments. Set design, props, costumes, and special effects are all poorly thought out to confusing yet hysterical results. It feels handmade and do-it-yourself, but it never manages to find a way to make you care. It's a mess of a shaky cam and arguing amongst a lot of technical blathering and eventually possession shenanigans. Respect for the crew, but not so much for the story. So, after you heard all this, and if you know me really, really well, Mavakaga says, you've got to check this out. Later. The Beach House. A romantic getaway for 2 troubled college sweethearts turns into a struggle for survival when unexpected guests and the surrounding environment exhibit signs of a mysterious infection. A young couple head to a beach house to spend some quality time and find it peaceful when they don't encounter any neighbors around. Their quality time is interrupted by the arrival of unexpected guests, and if that wasn't bad enough, a mysterious fog along with a mysterious infection is slowly spreading around. Got a question for you. Did you ever see a movie you thought was pretty good, but it was so weird and out of nowhere that you really weren't quite sure how you were supposed to process it as a viewer? Okay, well, The Beach House is one of the newer additions to Shudder, and for the most part, is a pretty standard horror movie. It's a slow burn about a young couple that go to, gee, you guessed it, a beach house for a romantic vacation together, only to find an older couple also staying at the beach house. For about half of the movie, things are okay. You're just watching a flawed relationship trying to fix itself and grow, but when things go awry, they really go out with it. This film has an uneasy feeling throughout. It gives off a vibe of unease, as though it were preparing the viewer for what is to come. There wasn't a moment of the film that I felt I could trust any particular characters, especially once the film really started revving its engine and working towards the final act. There are a lot of tense moments in the film, which is one thing they pulled off really well. Where it lost me was in the plot. The way it suddenly, and I do mean suddenly, begins to get a little too sci-fi for my liking in a film like this. I mean, I'll give it credit for doing something different. It easily could have been very cliched and trying to be its own thing, but it's an instance where I feel perhaps it tried a little too hard to be original, and then it ended up being off-putting as the film just went on. But that being said, credit needs to be given where it's due. Everyone acting in this film did a great job. The characters were relatable and believable. And the shots in this thing are absolutely stunning as well. The aesthetic of the film is eye-catching and beautiful throughout, which does make it a film that was still enjoyable despite its faults. So this is definitely another one I would say, I don't think you would be disappointed with it. Go watch it. An absolute classic, as if we didn't know. The Birds. Melanie Daniels is a modern rich socialite, part of the jet set who always gets what she wants. When lawyer Mitch Brenner sees her in a pet shop, he plays something of a practical joke on her, and she decides to return the favor. She drives about an hour north of San Francisco to Bodega Bay, where Mitch spends the weekends with his mother Lydia and younger sister Kathy. Soon after her arrival, however, the birds in the area begin to act strangely. A seagull attacks Melanie as she is crossing the bay in a small boat, and then Lydia finds her neighbor dead, obviously the victim of a bird attack. Soon, birds in the hundreds and thousands are attacking anyone they find out of doors. There is no explanation as to why this might be happening, and as the birds continue their vicious attacks, survival becomes the priority. This is one of Hitchcock's most well-known movies. Along with Psycho, it's the movie that most people identify with him. Many pages have been written about it, and surely there will be even more. I know that the superb technical aspects of the movie have been discussed a lot, so I'll try to focus on something I noticed when I watched it. It's scarier when there are no birds on screen. The tension, the silence, the uncertainty, the mystery, that's what suspense is about. I was amazed at how carefully Hitchcock builds the suspense in this movie. You watch the birds standing there, and they do not move. They're just waiting. Even when you think they are dumb, something tells you they are thinking. They are analyzing your moves. This was possible with the aid of a top-notch screenplay and great performances of the actors. This was probably the most difficult film for Hitchcock, especially for the technical aspects that were involved. But when you watch it, it really was worth the pain. The main plot is well known. Melanie Daniels, played by Tippi Hedren, a young girl goes to Bodega Bay looking for Mitch Brenner, who was played by Rod Taylor, a handsome man she met in San Francisco, when suddenly the birds start attacking humans for no reason. Pretty straightforward, and by this date very outdated. But Hitchcock adds his magic, and the script spices this with every complex relationship between the characters. That relationship between Mitch and his mother Lydia, who was played by Jessica Tandy by the way, and the conflict that she had with Melanie is very interesting and brings back memories of Psycho. Also, Melanie's relationship with her own mother and the bond that she creates with Lydia and Mitch's 11-year-old sister Kathy, who was played by Veronica Cartwright, is fascinating. The scene when the four of them are trapped inside the house with the birds waiting outside is classic. Not only is it a perfect example of the use of suspense, but it is an awesome study of the characters and how their relation grows. I think that this particular movie was the main inspiration for George A. Romero's claustrophobic climax in his landmark film, Night of the Living Dead. The technical aspects may be the focus of many studies, but the characters deserve to be praised. Even with the support cast with a few lines develop a personality of their own. The restaurant scene is Hitchcock at his best, with witty dialogues that are both humorous and creepy. Overall, this is an awesome movie. I just wanted to point that beyond the technical advances this experimental movie features, it is a perfect example of why Alfred Hitchcock is considered, and definitely is, the master of suspense. For this one, I'm going to say, if you have not watched it, what on earth are you waiting for? Watch it right now. The Call, 2020. Not the Korean one, the American one, which, well, in the fall of 1987, a group of small-town friends must survive the night in the home of a sinister couple after a tragic accident brings them to the couple's door. Okay, so when I sat down to watch this 2020 movie titled The Call, I must admit that I was sort of having some hopes for the movie, as it had two horror icons on the cast list. Well, as it turned out, the storyline in The Call was definitely interesting enough, if it wasn't actually being original. However, the movie's writer, Patrick Stibbs, didn't really manage to deliver where it mattered for a horror movie. Sure, the movie was watchable and sort of entertaining enough, but it was just way too bland and generic for my liking. And yeah, it was because of Tobin Bell and Lin Shaye, two iconic names, faces and voices in the horror genre, that I initially sat down to watch it. And I will say that they both definitely did spruce up the overall enjoyment of the movie. The acting was good for a movie such as this. It wasn't outstanding, but it was adequate enough. Perhaps it was because of the limitations of the script and the directorial hand of Timothy Woodward Jr. that sort of restrained the performers to fully give what they had. Visually, though, for a horror movie, well, The Call didn't deliver. The atmosphere in the house was interesting and lots of nice details to the house, but the otherworldly sequences were just too flaccid and didn't really feel like being scenes of personal hell and anguish enough. The Call is the type of horror movie that came out and went without as much as leaving a dent in the horror genre. I didn't even know about the movie before I had the chance to actually sit down and watch it. And having watched it now, I can honestly say that I highly doubt I will ever be sitting down to watch The Call a second time. Now, if you are a newcomer to the horror genre, then you will find some entertainment in this, or even some spooky stuff and scenes. You'll get it here. But for a seasoned horror veteran such as myself, this was a stroll in the park. I'd give this movie maybe a 5 out of 10. Nah, screw it, let's go with a 4. If you guys want to see a much, much more interesting movie than this, and it's the same title, called Call from 2020, it's a Korean flick, check that one out instead. This one, don't bother. Veteran or rookie or whatever you are, pass on this immediately. No need. Another brand new one, 2020. This one called The Dark and the Wicked. On a secluded farm in a nondescript rural town, a man is slowly dying. His family gathers to mourn, and soon a darkness grows, marked by waking nightmares and a growing sense that something evil is taking over the family. The Dark and the Wicked follows two siblings who are summoned back to the family farm to await the inevitability of their father's death. What initially appears to be a timeless ritual of loss and remembrance turns out to be something very different. Roger Ebert once said, "It's not what a film is about, but how it is about it." I had to take that into consideration when rating and reviewing The Dark and the Wicked. This is admittedly not my type of horror movie. I struggle with supernatural horror because I have zero belief in it, and thus it does nothing to unsettle me. However, I have to admit that this film was done very well, and that if I were unsettled by those types of films, then this one would have done the trick for me. This film is going to be up some people's alley big time. It's such a beautifully shot film. The director, Brian Bertino, is so good at framing what is on screen. He doesn't even need what's on screen to be all that impressive for it to look good. I also love the inventive camera angles he comes up with. They don't always work to heighten the scares or even the tension, but they add a touch of class to the mix, which is so often missing in the horror genre. My biggest gripe with the film, though, would be all the jump scares and the scenes where the demon is basically just trying to scare the characters rather than harm them. I understand why they have to be there to pad the runtime to 90 minutes, but they are still very frustrating to watch. I also didn't really connect with either of the two lead characters. They were very flat, understandable in their situation, to be fair, and that made it difficult for me to care all that much about their fate. But the final 20 to 30 minutes of this film, it's an absolute blast. The pacing rockets to life, and there are some fun and pretty messed up scenes. So, because of that, I would have to say The Dark and the Wicked is worth a watch. Definitely one on the list. If you haven't even heard about it, go get it, go find it, and give this one a watch. I think you will be pleased with this, especially the last, like I said, 20 to 30 minutes. Get out there, go get it. So which ones are you looking forward to? Which ones are you going to watch? Which ones are a definite pass? Which one tickles your fancy? Which ones tickles your never mind, family-oriented channel? All right, so yeah, let me know in the comment section below. Are you looking forward to seeing any of these? Did you already watch some of them? What'd you think of them? Definitely let me know. And yeah, keep it clean. This is a family channel. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on the next video. Peace and love. Peace and love. Mavakaga.